Hey, what's up, everybody? This is George Foote. I'm not going to be with you guys, sadly, because I'm going to be in the great state of California, so you guys enjoy the weather up there. I'm going to try to get right into this and make this as quick and painless as possible because I know your brains are probably melting out of your ears and you're falling asleep and everything like that, so let's jump right into it. In 1980, we had this group called ARPANET, the Advanced Research Project Agency Network, and they were a bunch of universities in the United States that were working for the DoD, the Department of Defense, and doing research for the computer science and engineering fields. And this group was one of the first in the world to use packet switching networks through transmission control protocol and internet protocol to be able to pass on information. Now, real quick, what TCP/IP is, you might have heard of it or seen it on your own computer if your internet was ever screwed up and you had to go in there and do some configurations with it. But basically what it is it's a two-layered system, and so you have the TCP, which is what breaks down the information, the data, or the message into small packets, and the internet protocol, the IP, is what sends it out to its address and gets it to its destination safely. Now, the computer on the receiving end has their TCP take those packets of information and builds them back together into the original message that it came. And so that's how information transfers through the internet even to this day. Also, there's this other group of nerds that were kind of jealous of ARPANET because they didn't get to play with the internet, and so they went off crying to the National Science Foundation saying, "No, we don't get to play or anything like that." So National Science Foundation says, "Stop your crying. We'll give you $5 million so you can develop your own." And so they went ahead and did that and included a whole bunch of other universities, and through what they did along with ARPANET and the DoD, this is what gave us the internet that we know and love today. Also during this time, Apple III came out. It was about $4,000 to $7,000, and just depends on how much configurations you have put into it and stuff, so that varied on the price. A year later, 1981, there's this cat named Adam Osborne. Now, he was working in the oil industry, and he quit that gig so he could pursue his love and passion of computer science. And he ended up developing the first portable computer called the Osborne 1. It weighed about 24 pounds, it had a 5-inch screen display, 2 floppy disks, and it ran about $1,700. Now, you got to think about this too. This is back in the 80s, early 80s at that, and $4,000 to $7,000 or $2,000 for a unit or piece of equipment was kind of a big chunk of change. I mean, they had the crash back then, with a bunch of business guys and Wall Street guys throwing themselves out of their office windows and off the tops of buildings because of the love of money, and they were running out of it. I mean, don't see that too much often these days and everything, or hear about it, but, back then, I guess, like, when shit hit the fan, people were hitting the floor hard. So, I don't know what to tell you. Can you tell it's late? Um, also, Apollo Computer and Microsystems, they came out with this desktop. It was more for computer engineering due to the high quality graphics that they had. It was called the DN100. I don't have a price on that or anything like that, so you can work that out for yourself. Also during this time, Microsoft was coming out with MS-DOS. Maybe you've heard of it. But Bill Gates and Paul Allen, the co-founders of IBM, they were making their own computer and they wanted a nice operating system. So Microsoft and IBM, they codenamed this little venture, chess, and basically came out with MS-DOS to plug into IBM, and that's what we know still to this day what they're running. They dropped this on August 12th, 1981. It ran for about $1,500. It included, the monitor, the keyboard, it had game paddles and everything. You could connect this thing to your TV set. So you got to think about it. That's pre-VCR. It's pre, your Nintendo systems, Atari, all that fun stuff. So it's a pretty big deal. Even though they came out with this was still not as good quality or functional as the Apple II, which had released 4 years earlier. So, but the price is right. People are going to buy it. Also during this time, Sony came out with the 3.5-inch floppy drive, which was the universal drive that everybody used because they had 3.5 quarter, they had 3.9 inches, all kinds of things, but Hewlett-Packard really pushed this, and that's what ended up being the most prevalent drive used for the rest of the computer world. In '82, they had a bunch of clones coming out of the IBM computers. So you had Compaq, they came out. They had computer that sold about 111 million in sales its first year, but the biggest seller was the Commodore 64. This thing was released in '82 and sold until '93, and in that time it sold over 22 million units. And in 2006, the Guinness Book of World Records went ahead and named it the top-selling computer of all time, still to this date. Then also Windows was going to release. Microsoft had MS-DOS, and they were going to release Windows, because in MS-DOS you had to go do like C / put in a command, and that's what made the computer do what it did. Windows was going to be the new feature where you had a bunch of windows and the screens actually did the functions like file drop downs and all that type of thing that we know to this day. That didn't drop for another 2 years, though, once they first announced it. A couple of quick fun facts for you guys. The field of quantum computing was introduced by Richard Feynman. Peter Norton invented Norton Utilities. The company Philips out in Germany, they created the CD, or compact disc, which obviously the remnants of that is going to be like, your DVD players and stuff, because everything's digitized now. There's this punk kid in high school, he's about 15 years old, named Rich Scrana. He made the Elk cloner, the first virus. It was a worm virus, and what had happened was it would get into the computer system and just make copies and copies and copies of the hard drive files until it overloaded the hard drive until it failed. And this thing affected like 6,000 or something hosts on the internet. From there, we had in '87, there was about 30,000 connected hosts to the internet through the TCP/IP connections. About a year later, or in '89, there was 160,000. So it was a fast-growing number. There's a lot of enthusiasm about this new internet phenomena. Also, there's these companies called Silicon Graphics, Autodesk, and VPL, and they came out with the first 3D concept and making environmental worlds and 3D environments and stuff that you could use for flight simulators or training or other educational purposes. And it had a head display monitor, gloves, and things like that. So it was pretty cool. Try to make it quick for you guys. Enjoy your Thanksgiving break, and I'll holler at you in about a week.